we're going to record. Okay, welcome. Michelle, I would like to introduce you all to the first in our series of Ask the Expert. And Michelle is the first cab off the rank. And, you know, as often is the case, we've got a few little technical issues, but we're pushing on through. So really, the first thing that I'd like you to do, Michelle, is just introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about you and your business and what brought those two aspects of your life into reality.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for having me, for starters. Evolve EQ has been something on my mind for a very long time. I'm a classic introvert, so I've been dealing with horses for many, many years and loving every minute of delving into horsemanship and psychology. And being a typical, I don't think I'm good enough, or I don't think I've got the skills and the abilities to be able to share these things, I've kept myself very quiet for many, many years and helped my friends with their horses and horsemanship journeys a lot. However, this year I've had a few pretty big awakenings and needed to really step into that zone of, well, I can actually help some people. And if it's just one person, one horse, that's a person that I've shared something with. And yeah, I've loved every minute of what I've been doing so far. I mean, it's not a lot at the moment because I am committed to other things in my life as well. But it really is a platform for me to start sharing some of my ideologies and some of the things I really think about, and just love seeing some success stories as well.
Yeah, and I think that's, you know, it's such an important message for, you know, for a lot of people out there, that we as individuals, you know, we can have so much to offer, you know, other people, and often it's our own insecurities and our own, you know, bullshit that that can stand in our way, and often that is it's a real tragedy, you know, because as you said, you know, you don't know that there's a lot of people out there that you will be able to help, and horses that you will be able to help and make a difference to. And you know, that's something that that is a real gift that you know should really be shared with the world. So I, for one, am really pleased that you're stepping outside of your comfort zone and you are pushing on forward to bring your knowledge to the world. So I really want to thank you for that.
Thanks.
So the second question that I really want to ask you is, like, just delving more into what you actually do and how you can help people and their horses. So what type of problems might I be experiencing if you know, if I was to come across your path looking for help, basically?
Yeah, so I've studied horse psychology and behavioral kind of components to what they are saying. I kind of would be the interpreter of that, I guess, and helping people start to see that horses really don't have a malicious bone in their body. It's all human elements that happen, and how we can actually help them understand English, or have to teach them the alphabet to be able to understand what they need from what we're needing from them. What I do is help people to evolve their emotional intelligence, evolve their awareness, and start to see what the horses are actually saying, and helping the horse feel that attunement. So when a horse feels attunement, they start to offer more, and they want to be with us. They want to do what we are asking them because they feel heard. They feel like they're part of the herd. They feel like they don't need their friends or paddock mates because they're actually safe with us. Anxiety is a thing that I deal a lot with, horses that are a bit shut down. So being shut down can be quite a good space for a horse because they lock the world out, but it can also be quite challenging to help them have expression or enjoy what they do. They just kind of be a bit robotic.
Mm-hmm.
I see a lot of anxious horses as well. They're probably more prone to being anxious and then becoming shut down because people are pushing their buttons and making them feel like there's just no other way. So yeah, kind of dealing with those kind of components and then helping people see what is being said to them. It's really what I love working on.
So yeah, so you're really taking on that role as like a translator or an interpreter, not only from a kind of a language perspective, but also from an interpretation of that behavior. So anxiety obviously is and just general stress and anxiety are two things that come across my path a lot with within our alternate touch products and approach. And they're so, obviously, like I always say to people, you need to look at it from a big picture, because if you're, and what you're talking about is adding in an additional dimension, because I see people and they are trying to implement training strategies. So they're trying to expose the horse to reduce anxiety to X, Y, and Z, or they're trying to train them and teach them new skills. But the horse simply can't take it on board because they're internally so imbalanced. So, what you're talking about is adding in that additional psychological dimension. So, so from that perspective, it's looking at it and going, okay, you want to make sure that they are, neurologically supported, which is where we bring in, lots of the B vitamins, the tryptophan, your flower essences, those sorts of things. Also, the digestive support is super important, because those two are tied together like the chicken and the egg. And then you've got what you're talking about, like a psychological perspective, and helping them to feel supported at a much more emotional, intrinsic level. And then, only then, can you bring in your training and your exposure. So, so it's really beautiful. It's like it's a fourth dimension, which is something that is, from my perspective, with our holistic approach, is super exciting, because that can often be that missing link, so that's really exciting. I'm just checking what my next question was, because I'm like, oh, I went off on a tangent.
I guess it also it does all work hand in hand, and it takes the time that it's going to take. Like some horses may need quite some time to start dealing and unraveling, and sometimes they get worse or they get better. It is years and years, or like it's almost years and years of abuse, because they haven't been heard. Like they feel like they can't have their voice, and sometimes it will take a long time to gain that trust back, to gain the awareness back as well. Like they've just shut off to the world, or they're so anxious.
Absolutely. And different modes of presentation, with what you were saying, with being,
and you've got to work with the one horse that you have right now, not yesterday's horse, not 6 years ago's horse. It's the horse that's right in front of you today, in this minute. What do they need right now? And that's the kind of level of awareness that we need to have, because we're asking the horses to do something.
So I've got some key words there, I think, for when people are watching this back on the replay, is awareness, and also patience and understanding. Because I think, like I see it a lot, that people want to go, they want to do what they want to do. And I understand that. I have been there in that position, but having that period of time, with Midnight, when he was out, it was a 3-year rehabilitation, was probably the best thing that ever happened in our relationship, because it allowed for so much more communication, as to really how to work with him on a very different level. And I at the time, obviously it was frustrating, but now I can look back at it and look at what I learned from that process. so, I think that those kind of words, awareness, patience, understanding, and like you said, really working on the present moment, which is something I really struggle with. I'm always trying to go here or there or upside down and all around. So
Yeah.
anyway,
And so many people do, like honestly, they do.
I should have written these down, not have them on my phone. Okay, the third question that I wanted to ask you was, what is, and this is probably going to be really hard to articulate, but what is one thing that you would like, every horse owner to know or to consider, in their approach to working with their horses?
Okay, so probably the biggest thing for me is that horses don't do anything maliciously.
Mhm.
Everything has a reason, and there's usually several telltale signs before an incident or a biting or a kicking or a refusal has happened, getting into the float. There's always signs of what is going on for the horse. They might hold
Mhm.
their breath, they might flick an ear, they might twitch their nostril to the right, that it's in a tenseness that they cannot change from the sympathetic to the parasympathetic nervous system. So for them, if we start to understand that they're not doing anything maliciously and that they aren't a insert some word here, she's a bitch, or he's nasty, or he's lazy or stubborn, like there's a reason for all of those things, and we
Mm.
need to really start to understand and unpack what the horse needs so that they can be a really great partner to us.
Mm.
There's always something behind it.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And I think that once you start to give the horse the opportunity to communicate as well, they become a lot more open. And so I find that with Midnight recently, I had an issue where he just started randomly flicking his head around, and I was like, what is he doing? And he was rushing, and he was flicking his head when we would sort of, if we hopped over a little jump, he would feel like he took the bit, and that he was rushing. And I was like, what the heck? And he was flicking his head all around, and I was like, there's something wrong here, and in the past, um I probably would have got, asked people's advice, and they would have been like, oh well, he's feeling a bit fresh, it's the whatever, the grass, or it's the this, it's the that, you've got to push him through it, he's being naughty, he's not listening to you. But in actual fact, I know him, and I know when if he does something like that, he just is communicating that something's wrong, and I need to pay attention. So, so I hop off, I, feel frustrated, let my frustrations sit for 12 hours, go out the next day and do a full body scan of him, what is going on with him. And sure enough, we found some sore spots through his saddle. His saddle was pinching him, he's changed shape, and so address those issues. And sure enough, he's back to normal again. So I think it's, yeah, I definitely think, like, looking at the behavior as a mode of communication, and obviously, we're not talking about, but we're still talking about actually looking at it and going, that sometimes they can't help the expression of their behavior because they've just gone so long with the person not listening to them.
That's exactly right.
So listening earlier and being aware, coming back to that word awareness. Okay, so sorry, I'll not cut you off. Was there anything else you wanted to add there, do you think?
No, I just really think that the awareness piece, and it could just be awareness of yourself too. We tend to have a lot of body language that's very confusing to the horse, and we're not consistent. We don't teach them from the beginning that, like, for example, the amount of horses I see pulling on their lead rope to have grass, and they just drag their owner around, and then that's our communication in the reins. Like, if you let them pull on the ground, you're actually dulling them to even turning or having a communication with you
Mm.
in the saddle, because
Mm.
it's kind of like that old adage of, a kid at the shop saying mum, 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 mum.
Yeah,
If
I get a
that
lot of
becomes
that.
normal, yeah, like you start ignoring that word, or
Mm.
you actually turn off to that word. Whereas,
Mhm.
our horses, they pull on their lead rope and go for a little jaunt trying to graze, and there's no communication there anymore. I've had one
Mm.
horse here for a while, and she actually started turning left instead of turning right because she thought that was the answer. Like, you pull
Mm.
into pressure. And I was like,
Yeah.
hang on. I need you to listen here, and taking it back to a small listening. She's now a hell of a lot better, but we need to be really aware of that because they're
Mm.
bolting at the walk, like
Yeah.
literally.
Yeah. And so that, yeah, some of those things that would generally seem quite innocuous,
So
that
minor.
yeah, that they're building, it's all building blocks, isn't it,
Yeah.
of communication and understanding. So okay, the last question that I had for you was, what are your kind of top tips for sort of having a successful partnership with the horse that you're working with, that are the people listening and working with, going into next year? What are your kind of, I think we've covered quite a few of them, but if you could kind of just maybe articulate just a couple of top tips.
Yeah, so I think the biggest thing for me would be that awareness piece, but awareness of self, knowing where
Mm.
you're at, your emotional awareness. When you've had a bad day, it might not be the right day to go and start trying to have a conversation with your horse. It's really about, where you're at, the congruency inside of you, and how you can see, think, feel, judge the situation right in front of you is actually going to help your horse in the long run. And just be okay to take time. Like, if you hang out with your horse for half an hour, that's still a really wonderful time with your horse. It doesn't have to be doing flying lead changes and huff
Mm-hmm.
pass. Like, it could just be chilling, breathing, relaxing, grounding, teaching them how to understand what the lead rope means again. Like, they're all massive parts of the equation that we're so quick to just run over. Like, how long do you spend learning the alphabet when you're a kid? Like, learn the alphabet before you start writing essays and paragraphs. Yeah, just be okay to look at yourself, reflect, take the time, and attune yourself to what they've got to say.
Yeah, definitely. It reminds me of a post. I can't remember who had written it, but it was a post talking about that sense of, and for me growing up, I desperately wanted, all I ever wanted was a pony. It was like just, and I would go and I would go down the road to where the little Shetland pony was, and I'd go and see the old lady and just groom her. I'd go to stables, I'd just muck out, I'd clean tack, I'd do anything just to be close to them. This post was talking about, that as over time, can we become more focused on the, whatever the
The
thing,
big
the
goals.
thing,
Yeah.
the bigger goal, and that even the kind of just the presence of just being there, and just actually just having that awareness of just how much of a privilege it is to just be in the saddle,
Yeah.
to
They
be
don't
next
have
to
an
them,
agenda.
to
Yeah.
yeah. So I think that is a really great tip, to be taking things back to that level of awareness and simplicity and really communication,
Yeah.
and thinking
They
about
they
how,
will
yeah.
teach you. They really will. They'll teach you how to ground yourself, and
Mm.
they have so much to offer when you just simply listen and take the time.
Yeah. Okay, well, we're about up to time now. For everyone that's watching, I'm just going to try and summarize the kind of things that you do, so you can correct me if I'm wrong. But I know that Michelle's got a clinic coming up with Montgomery on the 12th of December. I think that's right. Yeah, so we're going to put a link to that clinic in the comments once we post this video. I'm also going to put a link to Michelle's Facebook page, which is Evolve EQ. So if you can hop on there and like Michelle's page or follow it, whatever the stupid Facebook gods are making us do at the moment. And because she has some really beautiful reflections that definitely resonate with me, and I think will resonate with a lot of you guys. So there's a lot of really, really good content coming through that. I think it's your ability to express through that platform, which I think is really super valuable. In terms of sort of if you personally, feel that that you've got some issues with your horse, I definitely think if you're dealing with, sort of like some kind of blockage there, if your horse is shut down or is having issues with anxiety and so on, that maybe you've tried more sort of what we call conventional approaches. I mean, I find a lot of people, if our calmers aren't hitting the spot, it's usually something deeper at a psychological level, that is something that then maybe, Michelle's approach could be really helpful with. So you can contact Michelle through her Facebook page, Evolve EQ, and she will then be able to tell you more about what she might be able to do for you on a personal level. So I think, does that just about sort of cover what you can offer for us?
Wonderful. Thanks, Penny.
Cool. Awesome. Okay, well, we are going to finish up there and work out a way to get this recording off here and onto Facebook. Facebook didn't want to play the game. Michelle, I would like to thank you so much for being here. I really, really appreciate your perspective. I think it is extremely important. And it really is that fourth dimension to the holistic approach to health and well-being, which is so much at the center of my business and brand. So I'm really grateful for you giving us that perspective tonight. So thank you very much.
Thanks,
and
Penny.
we will see you again soon. Okay, I'm gonna stop